just finished writing a book, and it's one of my favorite days in the writing process, Reshelving Day, which is the day that I get to take hold of the books that I've been pulling out for the past few months from my library shelves and making notes and all that kind of stuff to do the writing, put them back. So I get to reshelve them, give them their covers back, which is just one of my favorite things. So thought I'd share that a little bit with you today. And maybe a little more, tell you about some of the books that I used for this writing project. So let's do that. Popular Magic, Owen Davies. Really great look at the lives and work of Cunning folk in England. Fantastic book. Highly recommend if you like a good academic read on the subject of folk magic. Sticky notes. A bunch more sticky notes. Of course, Tabitha Stanmore's Cunning Folk. This one is one that I turn to a lot, actually. I wind up using this one a lot for a lot of different things. Again, looking at the lives of folk magicians during the sort of late medieval, early modern period, very readable, looked at a lot of different aspects of folk magic. So definitely check that out. Claude Lecouteux's Tradition of Household Spirits. This is a phenomenal book looking at the ways that people invest their house with sort of magical properties or make sure that the spirits that are on that land or in that home feel welcome, feel taken care of, or they're protected from spirits that might wish them harm. So great book. Got library books too. Those are going to need to go back as well. Let's make a little pile of those. I'm going to take those over to my university library later today. Opie and Tatem's Dictionary of Superstition. Don't know where I'd be without this book, frankly. It's a really great book. Gives you good jumping off points. The Oxford English Dictionary of folk beliefs. A great place to jump off and look at, particularly looking at English stuff, since that's where they were from, but looks at some other stuff too. And great, again, jumping off what they can use to find additional stuff. So really great. Witches, Ghosts, and Signs by Patrick Gaynor, basically mid-Appalachian folklore done by somebody who lives there. Phenomenal stuff there too. Really good work on ghost story, witch stories, all kinds of beliefs about weather and farming and stuff like that. Great book. But about learning the Tao of Craft, if you're looking for a book that talks a little bit about Taoist folk magic and sigil crafts and amulets and things like that, cannot recommend this book enough. She's big, right? But phenomenal book. And does a wonderful job of digging into the sort of scholarship behind all this, but also looking at the practical aspect of how these talismans are made. Great book. Can't recommend this enough. Jim Baker, Cunning Man's Handbook. Really great book looking at all kinds of folklore having to do with the practice of cunning folk from 1550 to the early 1900s, really. Lots of original sources. Very dense. Worth getting if you're interested in this kind of history, though. So, The Annotated African-American Folktales by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Maria Tatar. This is a book that basically takes a lot of classic African-American folklore, provides a lot of great context for the stories that you're reading, while giving you some history, giving you some sense of sort of the culture that you're looking at. Really fantastic book for that. The Book of English Magic by Philip Cargone, Richard Haygate. One of my favorite books in terms of just exploring the history of magic and witchcraft in England, but also getting into things like Druidry and the occult revival and all kinds of stuff. Great book. And a lot of my work wouldn't exist without this book to inspire some of the things that I've done. So love this book. The Distaff Gospels. This is a translation by Madeleine Gay and Catherine Gray. This is the first, I think, major English translation of this, 15th century text that's really full of women's folklore. Basically, it's women sitting around talking about different folk beliefs and things like that as they're doing spinning work. Right? Lovely, lovely look back at how folklore has been a continuous part of people's lives for forever, really. This is the great sort of snapshot of that library book. So it's going back to the library. Cunning Folk and Familiar Spirits. I'm wealthy. If you haven't read this one, you should. It's great. It's what's wrong with learning about people winding up in fairy mounds in the middle of the night, or winding up having otherworldly experiences where they're gifted little magical powers or visions and things like that. It will be a phenomenal historian. Does a great job of digging into all these kind of folk beliefs that went along with this and how those affected people's daily lives. Stack of books here on African-American folklore and folk magic that I think is absolutely worth checking out. Any one of these. I was a man by Zora Neale Hurston. Great look at hoodoo from somebody who was doing some of the earliest sort of scholarly research on that, but also a member of the community that she just Spiritual Merchants by Carolyn Morrow Long look at the sort of mail order folk magic phenomenon surrounding a lot of early African-American companies that were selling kind of hoodoo-based products. Mojo Workin looks at traditional old black belt style hoodoo and African American folk belief, religion, and practices done by Katrina Hazard Donald. Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo, Tony Cale. He runs basically a hoodoo museum down in Memphis. Cannot recommend his work enough. Voodoo and Power. This one is by, I think his name's Cody Roberts. This looks specifically at the struggles for political power among different voodoo practitioners, particularly around New Orleans at one point in time. Really great. Herbal and Magical Medicine. This looks at the traditions of African American folk medicine and folk magic. Great scholarly work. A lot of different scholars sharing their perspectives in there. So good. Play Religion by Albert Rabbitoe. Wonderful overview of sort of the resilience of African American belief and religion during the sort of 19th century and how that became the sort of foundation for so many other things. Great stack of books. Highly recommend. It could take me forever to get the whole sticky notes out of here. I will make you watch me do one. These actually typically live at my work office, so they'll be going back with me to campus. Witches of the Atlantic World, edited by Elaine Breathlaw, basically looking at folklore and history surrounding witch trials as well as witchcraft beliefs. It goes beyond just the sort of typical stuff. You get a lot of material that goes outside of just New England and England. So we've got some good kind of range on this, written by a number of different scholars. Breathlaw just edits it all together. We also get a lot of original source documents. So you get the witch trial transcriptions from Salem. You get some original source documents from anthropologists who are doing research on witchcraft in different places. Great book for anybody who's interested in kind of a scholarly history of witchcraft beliefs. And finally, this one wasn't a major part of the book that I was writing, but I wanted pulling it out for doing some sort of additional tangential research. Sigil Witchery by Tabitha. One of my favorite books on the idea of making magical sigils and markings and things like that. Lots of great advice, some really interesting history in there too, and inspired me in a lot of ways. Cannot recommend that enough either. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed shelving with me, and thanks.